So this is the next stage of the concept development, stage B. And as you can see here, I've got various different slides going on. So this was just to let the client know, to refresh them what phase B was going to present. So it selected concepts to be developed into 4 cohesive schemes for these different elements: bedrooms, receptions, breakfast room, communal areas. And as I said before, I don't deal with bathrooms and WCs. Yeah, so that's just the kind of introduction. Now, the good news, as far as I'm concerned, is that the client agreed to go with concept 1, which was the Indian textiles inspired by the Victorian Albert Museum collection. So that's really great. I have, in the meantime, contacted the V&A, the textile collection department of the Indian exhibits there, to see if they're helpful enough and willing to facilitate some research. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's something that I would obviously really enjoy kind of adding to the project in terms of access to amazing fabrics and information. And I think it would give the whole project some more prestige. So we'll see how that works. The next thing I'm going to show is basically the first, oh no, there's another slide here about this design concept 2, to do with Acacia, which is partly involved with the project. This is kind of, when we discussed it, a possibility, but not so likely. I think the design concept 3 is still of interest to the clients. When I chatted to them, they really like and want to incorporate some of the local historical notable people that lived either in the property itself or certainly in the area South Kensington in London. So that's great. So now it's on to the scary bit, when I show them the actual design concepts. So I've done all the research. I've presented A, which is kind of giving them ideas for the overarching themes. They've come back and said, yes, we love that. They haven't come back. I met them. I do all this in person. I think it's really important to read their body language, etc. And then I have my next meeting. This time I was with 4 people who are intrinsically linked with the project. The first 2 are the husband and wife who own the hotel, plus the wife's brother who's involved, and the right-hand man manager who will be helping me implement everything. So we were all there. It was very relaxed, but at the end of the day, I'm thinking I've got this presentation of about 30 things to show them, or 30 pages, and you just hope that it doesn't fall flat. I'm sure if you're a designer watching this, you know that feeling. Basically, you've got to go out there and go, how about this? What do you think? And it's a matter of, prior to showing them anything, saying, look, this is a conversation. If it's something that you're not keen on, we can discuss it. I can refresh it. I can tweak it. So you kind of want to have a confidence in what you're presenting, because that is, in my heart and soul, what I want to do with the visuals as an overarching concept, colours, theme, etc., etc. But you're also letting them know that you're not telling them this is what you're doing. So it's a fine balance, really, and I think it grows with confidence over time. So I almost feel the same way showing it on this screen, because ultimately I don't know what you'll think. Any comments are welcome. So here's the color scheme 1 inspiration board, and you can see here, I don't know if I can actually enlarge this much. No, that's minimizing it. Let me go in there. So you can see here that there is strong color palette, and these colors I've come up with through researching different fabrics, through looking at various inspiration. I don't really know where it comes from. Where does our creative stuff come from? But basically I think some images I looked at, and I always start, whenever I do an inspiration board, I always start, as you can see here, with a piece of real life and nature, or something which is sort of a strong theme, if you like, as a central image, and then I take colors from it. The family are of Indian descent. Well, they're Indian. They came over in the 1970s. So they've never, ever celebrated their heritage or culture in any of the properties that they own. And this, it's my client's kind of swan song. She's nearly 80 now, and I would love to do something that really celebrates who they are as a family and their roots, alongside merging it with obviously the local history of South Kensington and the UK. So that's a bit of a long-winded way of saying that in here we've got some Indian elements, and we've also got some very traditional British or should I say English even, faded kind of historical patterning. And what was interesting was I went to the Tate in Dundee about a year ago and looked at a lot of paisley, which you can see here I put into a bespoke fabric mock-up. And I learned when I was in Dundee about a year ago, exactly a year ago, because I'm back in Perth as I'm doing this to you today, that paisley came over from Kashmir and was part of the silk woven shawls, etc. So the link from Paisley to Scotland actually obviously comes from India, from all the traders, etc., etc. So there's a wonderful overlay, is what I'm trying to say, between a kind of more classical William Morris type of kind of traditional British design, and then this Indian Paisley sort of meld, I was going to say, or an amalgamation. I think these colors are great, so I've taken some of those. And yeah, that's my sort of starting point. So within that, I then create some bespoke patterns with said color scheme, just to give them an idea that, you know, this is the kind of decor that I would be looking at or creating for them on a bespoke level, maybe for fabrics or maybe for cushions or whatever. This is a variation of said color scheme, again, just to give them a flavor, look at it in slightly more detail. And this is just a mood board. These images are taken from various sources. And again, it's just to give them an understanding of the kind of mix of pattern and plain, of strong color, of soft greens, etc., sort of merging with a pattern carpet, just give them a flavor. This is color scheme number 2. So this is the inspiration board for perhaps another floor in the hotel. We're kind of doing it in sections. Hopefully at the end, you will see how these 4 boards and 4 directions work together. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a while. But this is colour scheme 2. I've brought in the turquoise. I think it gives a lovely sort of differentiator. And yeah, I've used a door from India here for the sort of original sense of where am I even starting. And then I look around for different elements that I find. I found this lovely image of a throw. I think it's related to the previous image actually, because you've got the same wall colour at the back there. Then this lovely vase with some flowers and things in, and this sort of trinket from India with the same colour tones. So I'm working with a colour palette that is in harmony with the previous one, but has its own identity. Then I've done similarly to how I did before. I've created these patterns myself, working and playing with the colour schemes to show how they can become decorative elements, soft furnishings, etc. in more detail. And then this is a slightly richer version of the same colour scheme. That's again a mood board, just to simplify it. These are the sort of key elements that I would be looking at. And then we go on to colour scheme 3. So again, you can see that it relates, but it's got its own flavour. I particularly love this picture of an Indian plantation. I think it's a tea plantation, I can't remember, but that just gave me a really strong sense of colour and what I wanted to use. I didn't necessarily do these in the order that I'm presenting them. I can't remember which I started with. It may well have been this one, because I just saw that picture and thought, there's a colour scheme I want to work with. So again, bringing in this like William Morris, for want of a better description. It's not a William Morris, but it's something I found. Yeah, and some more patterns and textures that you can see here that I've created. This is a tile repeat pattern in the colorway. And again, this is a richer version of a similar playing around with shape, color in a kind of Indian type of pattern. Here's the mood board. This is a bit outlandish, but it just gives you a sense that this particular scheme is going to be richer, more vibrant, darker, more, I don't know, luxurious maybe, or just, yeah, richer, I think is the best word for it. Here's colour scheme 4, so I want to go lighter on this one. And again, I think this image here just really helped me nail down the colours that I want to use, but it links, as you can see, to the previous ones. And I love this image because it's got that kind of classical, traditional English hand-carved furniture with a button-back chair, and then it's got this patterned rug, which obviously matches really well with the colour scheme that I chose, and this faded glory wallpaper, as I sort of think of it as. So again, that's the kind of overall idea, playing with some patterns and some shapes in those colorways just to show how they can be played around with, and that's the deeper, richer version of said color pattern. So here's the mood board, just in a little more detail. Sometimes I find these boards are quite a lot for them to look at, so I break it down from an inspiration board where it's like, wow, that's the entire look and feel that you want to achieve, or I want to achieve, into something which is much more, okay, here's some images to show you a bit more graphically how that would work. And then the final part, which I think is really important, is to show how they all work together. And one of the analogies I use a lot with clients and in presentations is the concept of the family. So basically, these are all individuals, but they work cohesively, like the genetics of a family. And I think that people kind of understand that. It also means that you can say, well, I say sometimes, you know, we can have a slightly odd cousin who's not like the rest of the family, but really fantastic in terms of maybe you're doing a downstairs loo and you just want it to be a quirky little corner. But ultimately, these are like siblings. They connect. They have the same genetics. They're coming from the same creators, i.e. me. So they've got a through line, but you can use each one individually and embellish it and make it something of its own individuality, as well as we all do as a member of a family. So that's the presentation. Thankfully, it went down really well. I'd love to know what you think, if you've got any thoughts, either now or in the future. It may be that when you're watching this, the project is finished. This content will stay in the Burkhard Design Assemblage for as long as the assemblage exists. But yeah, that's the presentation, ending the second part of the concepts. And now they've given me the green light, I'm going to start doing the floor plans and give them presentations of specific items of furniture and how we fill the rooms on an actual kind of practical, real, price-based layout. Great. Hope you've enjoyed looking at it, and thank you so much for being here.